How in the world could you buy your son Bobby, your little son Bobby, a German bike? What happened was the fact that I never really had dealt much having to hear my mother. Well, I started to hear my mother's stories early. She first told me she was a Holocaust survivor when she was 5. And my first taste of how much hatred was inside her was due to a bike accident that I had one day. I was about 5 or 6 years old. It's in the first chapter of my book. And I was, riding my bike. All of a sudden, I was with a friend of mine, and I flew off the handlebars and hit a step on an apartment building entranceway. And I didn't crack my head open completely, but I was lying there in a pool of blood. My friend went over to my parents' house. My dad happened to be over that day. They were already in the process of getting divorced, so they weren't living together anymore. My friend brought my mother and my father over there. My mother couldn't stop crying. And then my mother looked over at my father, didn't say a word for a second, and all of a sudden she just started to open up with rage that was unseen and said, Misha, his name was Morris, the Misha was a Yiddish name, how in the world could you buy your son Bobby, your little son Bobby, a German bike? How in the world could you do that? You look at him lying there. He may not. I don't know what's going to happen to him. And then she went on from there to say, you basically left me for a Deutschke, which is a derogatory term in Yiddish for non-Jewish people. I don't believe it's German. And she went on from there to say, you left me for a Deutschke. And, you knew what happened to my parents and my family, and yet you left me for a Deutschke, and you bought him a German bike. You're living with a German whore, and those were the words that she used, I remember. And then she went on to say something like, you're really not his father, aren't you? She goes, I don't know if I could ever let you see him again. And I remember that incident, even though I was 5 and trying to interpret, obviously 5 not knowing much, but that stuck with me and that resonated with me. And to the level that she went on with this story and just kept raging at him, and my father really didn't say much. He didn't really know what to say. Probably had his own opinion because he wasn't doing anything necessarily wrong. But the hatred for my German stepmother really evolved from that time. And that's an important thing because in the first chapter I heavily talk about the whole idea regarding how did all this generational trauma happen,